blah, blah, blah. It's the start of the episode. This is Adam.
This is Nathan.
This is the Everything Bagel.
Yum, yum.
You did that last time, too. Today we're talking about land destruction. Just kind of overall land destruction. There'll be a focus on Commander because that's generally what we play.
Yeah.
But don't be surprised if anecdotes get brought up from, what is it? Modern, Legacy. Not necessarily Pioneer or Standard because it's just not a thing. Standard more than Pioneer, but there is no big, as far as I know, land destruction deck in either format. Nothing that's top tier or has been around. Pioneer hasn't been around enough, I don't think, for kind of iconic decks like Jund or what is it? Just like Blue-Eye Control exists everywhere, but specifically in our context with land destruction, Panza gets its own name. It's the modern land destruction deck.
Oh, okay.
So if you ever hear Panza referenced in any capacity, it generally just references land destruction. Don't ask me where the name Panza comes from. Probably some dude, right? Just some dude. It's where you get what is it? The really old Magic the Gathering deck names. They just named them after like cereal.
Yeah.
Right. Like Fruity Pebbles. Don't ask me what it does, but it's a deck name.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Land destruction tribal, not a thing that I don't think can happen. I mean, I guess you could.
Yeah, you could. It'd be a deck. You'd catch some flack. It probably is more of a board wipe tribal deck.
And I don't see anybody winning that game unless you just make everything indestructible all the time.
Yeah, that's what you would have to do. You'd have to play a lot of indestructible permanents.
And it's like you would like want exactly, like enchantments, artifacts that just stay on the board.
Yeah.
But I have learned that there's a lot of red-green removal like that I didn't know before because I don't typically look into land destruction.
Yeah, I want to say there's kind of there's an obvious negative stigma around land destruction. It's perceived as not casual. Yeah. Which...
It's just kind of wrong.
Kind of wrong. I think land destruction is fine in your casual games. I think mass land destruction is rude.
Yeah.
Right? Your Armageddons, your, to a lesser extent, Ravages of War, because at least you'll get some lands back. That's the Saga. Enters, destroys all, and then you get 2 back every turn for the next 2 turns. So you'll be back quicker, and everyone else will be stumbling.
Mm-hmm.
The problem with land destruction, though, is most people are bad with it.
Yeah, it's like a all or be. It's like it's all there. Like you're just getting rid of everything, or it's just not prevalent. I think, or like not used.
Yeah. Well, what is it? So, not that anyone has like a Gaia's Cradle at a casual table. If you're playing Gaia's Cradle at a casual table, go fuck yourself. So, like, targeted removal works for that. Or you get, like, the Ixalan flip lands. They're enchantments that flip into lands.
Yep.
Right? Search for Escanta, Journey to Eternity, Hinata's Climb. Where they start as an enchantment, and then you meet some prerequisites, and then you transform it, and it transforms into a utility land. Getting rid of those utility lands can be useful, right? Journey to Eternity is the one that comes to mind as kind of like the most useful. What is it? When you can pay a black and green in 3 and just reanimate anything.
Ooh.
Right.
Okay. Okay, reanimate. I was saying regenerate.
Yeah. So yeah, it's, I would say, one of the better ways to get regular reanimation, right? Just constant reanimation, because you're in black green, so you have a ton of mana.
Yeah.
And if you play cards like Buried Alive or a bit of Self Mill, and you just just flip cards kind of quickly to get them into the graveyard. Journey to Eternity, I can't remember what it's actually called, what the land's called. You can generate some insane value.
Yeah.
Right? Nothing like 2 to 3 Crater Hoofs per turn, because you just play it, you just get it out of the graveyard, sacrifice it to something, your village rights or whatever, and then get it out of the graveyard again. It's like, oh yeah, it was just a casual plus, I don't know, 15 twice on all my Sapperlings or whatever, are just constantly reanimating something like an Avenger of Zendikar to dump massive amounts of plants onto the table.
Giving me a lot of great ideas for my Grixis reanimator deck over here, Adam. I love it.
Good thing Grixis doesn't have green.
Oh yeah, that's my problem. I want green in my Grixis commander deck because big zombie.
Yeah. But, and I also said, right, most people are bad with land destruction.
Yeah.
Right. I think that's generally to do with not necessarily assessing targets properly.
Yeah. Right. It can come off more of like I hate to say it, like immature play. Yeah. Frustrated at the game or the table, and you're like, fuck everybody, Armageddon.
Yeah.
And then you just want to reset the game.
But then because the problem I see that happens a lot is, or that I would think happens a lot, and the reason why it's perceived as bad is because someone will do that, cast Armageddon, and they'll have no reason to do it because it actively makes their position worse. Right? It just does. And it doesn't harm their opponent's positions enough.
Because they still have all their creatures.
Because they still have all of their creatures, all of their other permanents. And so if you cast Armageddon and you're playing against a blue player and they have just they have, what's it called? Something like, what is it? Rhystic Study.
Oh, okay.
So every time you go and try and cast something going forward, they already have a Rhystic Study out. It's at the start of the game. You're not going to be able to pay the 1.
Yeah.
You're going to force the table to feed them cards. They're playing blue-white, so they have Smothering Tithe out too.
Yeah.
So no one's going to be able to pay the 2, so they're just going to get ahead in an instant.
Yeah, and you're also assuming by tapping out with Armageddon, or I don't even know how much it costs to play Armageddon.
4.
Counterspell.
Yeah, counter.
Just gonna anybody at the table is gonna ask probably around because you don't want to angle shoot, right?
Yeah.
But if you have a response, if you don't have a response, then you're just like nobody wants this to hit the table, right? Yeah. Somebody out of 3 other players might have something to counter it.
And then you could get God. Teferi's Protection comes to mind right away. Yeah. Phase out. Heroic Intervention, give all your permanents hexproof.
Yeah.
Right? Nothing like casting Armageddon into a seemingly exposed board, right? The blue players tap down, so they don't have a counterspell. But then the person touching white and the person touching green, one of them casts Heroic Intervention, one of them casts Teferi's Protection, and you ain't got nothing. So you just ended the game for 2 of you, and the other guys are just going to run away with the game.
And would it actually get around the hexproof if it destroys all lands?
Indestructible.
Oh, okay.
Right, it gives all of your permanents indestructible. Can't be destroyed.
Yep, there you go.
End of story. So I feel like there'd be less feel-bad moments around land destruction if the people playing land destruction weren't doing it. Because I guess that's another thing that I see when people talk about playing land destruction is they're not playing it to gain an advantage. They're playing it, and the mindset that they have is, I'm going to be an asshole.
Yeah.
Right? I'm going to target the person that we're 3 turns in and they only have 1 land. I'm going to target that person with my Stone Rain. Why? Because fuck them. Right?
Yeah.
So you're going to catch hands, both in-game and maybe even out of game, right?
Yeah. I saw that one commander that does it really well is Lord Wind Grace.
Yep.
Crazy.
Yeah.
That's like the perfect one I saw. It was black, red, green.
Yep.
And I think the whole thing was discarding cards so that you could draw more cards, and if you discarded a land, you draw even more cards.
Yeah.
Then you want to return those lands so that you'll have your creatures out, hopefully with some of the lands that you're already casually playing. Mm-hmm. You'll trigger those landfall triggers.
Yeah.
Probably make a crap ton of tokens with some landfall stuff.
Yeah.
On top of that, you're probably going to be closing the game out with just a bunch of tokens with a minus ultimate ability. I think it's like minus 11, starts at 6 loyalty.
Yeah.
Destroy 6 lands and then create 6 2/2 cat creature tokens.
Okay.
So it's like that's a more tolerable land destruction deck when you can approach a table and be like, hey, land destruction over here, but very casual. Look at the commander.
Yeah,
I guess
I'm playing land destruction as part of a strategy.
Yeah.
And not to just be rude.
Mm-hmm. It's like it's going to be annoying and slow, but I'll get there.
Yeah. That is to say, placement of your land destruction in decks. If you're running red-white, you got your copies of like Boom Bust, Stone Rain, Molten Rain, Pillage, Armageddon. Yokel Hops is one that's at the top of that list. World 5, jeez. Those cards don't belong in your like Boros Feather deck, or your just random command. Right, if you're playing mono red commander, and you get down to you got 95 cards.
Yeah.
And you're like thinking, oh, what could I put in this deck? Don't put land destruction just because you're like, land destruction, haha, funny.
Yeah. And you're generally probably making your deck weaker that way too, by wasting those 5 slots.
Yeah, because there's most assuredly something more valuable towards your game plan that you could be putting into your deck that isn't just ways to make people mad at you for destroying their lands.
Yeah. And I can't imagine a scenario in which you'd want that overall.
Yeah.
Unless you're just not playing with a fun pod. Like, if you just don't like your playgroup.
Oh, yeah. If you
have bigger problems.
If you go to your LGS regularly and there's some idiot there that he's like, oh, look at me. I have a lot of money, so I just play whatever really expensive lands I can find. Mm-hmm. They spent way more than they should on their original dual lands because they felt like it. Then
Maps mirror deck.
This kind of meet their level.
Yeah.
And so that way they can cry about it every time they play some $500 land and you hit them with a 20-cent common that just removes it.
And then you have I didn't think about this before, but if you like really wanted to reset a game, you match an Armageddon with a Psychonic Rift.
Yeah.
And it's like at that point,
yep.
Does everybody scoop and actually start over, or do you just continue playing in the same group?
Well, that goes back to the topic of like using it as part of your strategy, right? Use Cyclonic Rift, it picks up everything but their lands, so all of your junk's still around.
Yeah.
Right? And then you cast Armageddon, so now you have stranded a ton of cards in your opponent's hands. You have no lands, but you have your creatures, your enchantments,
true,
your artifacts. So I would say that is a valid strategy.
Yeah.
Because
you can at least close out the game that way.
You can close out the game that way, or you're in such a dominant position, right? Because you might only have 2 or 3 creatures out, right? But it's mid-game because you have enough mana to Cyclonic Rift in Armageddon in the same turn. Are you Cyclonic Rift at the end of the previous opponent's turn? It got to your turn, then you cast Armageddon.
Or you can do the hold priority trick.
Yeah. So there's an actual strategy there when it comes to mass land destruction. It's a big tempo play.
Yeah.
And I would say 90% of times that is the end of the game, right?
Hopefully.
Yeah, that's why I say 9. You're like,
Yeah.
most games you just win at that point because your opponents are behind on everything.
Yeah. It's like if you don't get them in that turn, hopefully your next turn, right?
Yep. Or even if it does take you a few turns, hopefully your board was developed enough that even though it takes 5 turns, right, to kill them all, there's no significant action they can take in those 5 turns.
Unless they also had those same set of cards.
Yeah. Terraferry's Protection, or, there's plenty. That's why I would say start with the Cyclonic Rift, because if they're going to...
Oh.
Right. They're going to start with the Cyclonic Rift, and if they counter the Cyclonic Rift, or I guess start with the Armageddon.
Yeah.
Float all your mana, cast the Armageddon, and then if the Armageddon resolves, then you can Cyclonic Rift.
Mm-hmm.
It's a toss-up. I'm sure it depends on where the board state is at the time.
Did we talk about Sulfim and how that could possibly work? I just like the little chip damage. I think that's where like a lot of the actual landfall strategy probably will lie. Just like just getting rid of a little bit of like, I guess if you're gonna do a threat assessment on lands, utility lands first.
Yeah.
I just heard of a land today. I forgot about it. It's like it comes with 10 ice counters on it.
Oh, Dark Depths.
Dark Depths. Yeah, like stuff like that. Yeah, obviously get rid of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you have, any damage doublers out there.
Yeah.
You do tiny stuff like that. But other than that, it seems like Land Destruction has a very niche group of actual play style.
Yeah.
And maybe that's something the Wizards of the Coast will probably get more into.
I don't think the players want that.
No, I don't think they do, right? But I keep them thinking of avenues that they just haven't explored yet, or have touched on lightly.
Yeah.
And I think Energy is kind of in that same boat.
Yeah.
And they just came out with the Energy Precon, and same thing with the Fallout set, and like they just keep kind of teasing us. I feel like with Energy, so I'm hoping they come up with a whole set of Energy to like kind of stabilize a
return to Kaladesh.
Yeah, I would love it.
Yeah, I think it'd be very nice.
And it's like something that I think that kind of part of Magic needs. And same, like I'm not sure what a Land Destruction plane would look like, but maybe something where it has not necessarily its main goal is Land Destruction, but like a.
Well, it'd be Landfall, right?
Yeah, it would just be.
You do something with Landfall, and then if you do something with Landfall and then make land recursion kind of easy in the set.
Which they kind of did with Outlaws, with that one commander, I think. Where they, I think it's just exiled actually not.
I don't know.
There's a whole precon around it.
But something to do with playing lands and just something that like, if you play this card, you can get a land out of your graveyard and put it into play, yada yada. Just attaching that to spells. Mm-hmm. In a set where it's very common, or there's a large prevalence of spells that destroy lands, right? Even then, like new Land Destruction, I think is generally fine. You see cards like I want to say Raw Up Assassin's Trophy, Field of Ruin, even Ghost Quarter, right, where land destruction is less of a problem as long as you build your deck correctly. Yeah. That is to say, you put some basics in your deck. Ghost Quarter allows Ghost Quarter, you destroy land, but the owner of that land's ghost finds basic. I think Boom Bust has the same thing. Cleansing Wildfire has the same thing. Field of Ruin has the same thing. They all just have tacked onto them. If you're not playing the most egregious greedy mana base possible, you can go find a basic land on top of your normal lands, or on top of your utility land was destroyed, but you can go find one, so that way you don't go down on lands. You just have less access to specific colors.
Yeah. Which I didn't think about this, but You could even do like land destruction, kind of. I think a little bit of what you're talking about, unless I just had this idea by myself. But just like getting rid of everybody's like one color that they need, like just making them play slower.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be destroy all lands, right? You could just like, I'm gonna get rid of everybody's mountains or islands or whatever. Make it very inconvenient to play, but not impossible.
Well, what is it? The problem with something like that is
you're not committing enough?
No, because a lot of non-basic lands don't have land types, right?
Oh,
right.
Yeah.
So if you say destroy all mountains, you hit dual lands or original dual lands, shock lands, tri lands, and any of the like other clones.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I want to say there's some cycling dual lands and whatnot, but then you're left with a ton of non-basic lands.
True that. Land destruction just isn't something you want to see at your table. If I'm going to be honest, I'm not going to scoop if I see it, but it's just like, ooh. I don't know. It'd be fun to play like one game of. I think.
Yeah.
Just so that you know how to play around it.
Mm-hmm.
But I like that land destruction deck that someone's like, oh, this is my booyah deck. Yeah. It's like, this is my baby.
Yeah.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
That's just.
But I would say that's any deck, right? It's any strategy, really.
Yeah, I guess because like I don't know, even in like a reanimator, you could run a Crucible of Worlds and be fine.
Other than like mid range, because mid range is just like, we're gonna grind till right. We're just gonna grind against each other until one of us ekes out an advantage. Because I would imagine mid range is where most casual players end up, where they have some creatures, some answers. I would say mid range skewed towards aggro is where most people end up. But you get into your third game your third pod of 3 control players, and it's like, all right, draw, pass. I go to cast a spell. Oh, I have a counter, right? And so it's just a lot of standing around and waiting for someone to hit an uncounterable threat.
The green player.
Yeah. Or how many games do you want to get run down by your opponent's quick combo where it's 2-card combo and the game ends.
Yeah.
Because no one had anything up. Right? Land destruction, it's another one of those, all right, how many turns am I going to spend staring at everyone because I just don't have lands to cast spells?
Yeah. And maybe that's where you, I guess, invest a lot of your actual money into 0 mana things that can be useful. But I haven't touched a lot of 0 mana things myself.
Mm.
But I did see a game with one, like, I want to say when Lord of the Rings set came out.
Mm.
Not sure if you ever watched the show Cobra Kai, but 2 of the kids that were like one of the leads on those shows played a game with like the command zone.
Yeah.
And one of the guys, all of his interaction, 0 mana interaction, just free. He's like, I'll just play like it's not a bad strategy, especially if you just like can do it.
Yeah.
Because it's just like I don't have to hold up mana to answer things.
Yeah.
It's like that's
and I get to hide.
Yeah.
Well, right.
It's like wow, that's like peak magic almost for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just have an answer, cuz. That's so nice. Any final thoughts on the land destruction topic?
I think land destruction gets a lot of undeserved hate.
Undeserved?
Yeah.
Undeserved.
I do. I really do. I think
I'm on the fence. I'll be honest.
It's just like anything in the game, right?
I see your point. Because like everything's a strategy at the end of the day.
Everything's a strategy at the end of the day. The reason why land destruction gets a lot of hate is because the people that generally play it are just assholes. Like
the player base is the problem, not the play style.
Yeah, hate the player, not the game. Land destruction is a perfect example. Hate the player, not the game.
That's a very fair point. Also, check yourself though, because that guy might also just be a decent guy, and you just hate his play style. And
Yeah. Yeah.
check yourself too. Yeah.
Yeah, just
Play it right.
play it right.
Or don't play it at all. That's how I feel. Don't play it if you can't play it right. Mm-hmm. And whatever my definition of right means, too. It can't be your definition of right.
Yeah.
Oh, man. I think that... What, is it Ikoria that did the landfall stuff? Did we already do...
Zendikar
Rising?
Zendikar Rising.
It's like they've only revisited planes like what, one additional time. Some of the planes, have we done a third visit to a plane?
Ravnica. There was Ravnica, Return to Ravnica.
Oh.
And then there was Return to Ravnica.
Oh, okay.
Which is the
Ravnica remastered stuff?
Nope.
That's not even that. Dang.
Yeah, because there was a Ravnica in the early 2000s. There was a Ravnica in the early 2010s. And then there was a Ravnica in the late 2010s.
Oh.
And they were all blocks, so they were all multiple sets, right?
Okay. Let's go back.
I don't think we need to go to more planes. I think we should go to less planes and just return to
the same ones.
It's
like just freshen up on the old stuff, guys.
Mm-hmm.
Give us more of what we already have. And it's like we already like what we have, I guess.
Yeah.
Universe Beyond is neat. Assassin's Creed's coming out. That's neato.
I think Bloomborough is unique, right? In the whole like no humans. But even then, like, it doesn't really matter because creature type's creature type.
Yeah.
So it's just them stating outright they're not going to print a specific creature type.
Mm.
I do worry that they'll make a lot of tribes or typals, whatever, that don't have a lot of support.
Like snakes, maybe? I don't know.
Well, snakes, cephalids, and insects are all dead.
Oh, okay.
So I worry that they might do that again, where they just make a few
booyah cards for those kinds.
Well, what is it? They make like a creature type, like rabbit creature type, and there's like 10 rabbits in all of Magic. So there's just a creature type that doesn't have a lot of support. Then they just end up being in good stuff piles, and then it's like it could have been a human, and it would have had a home.
Or a bear. I like bears.
Or a bear. I think there would be bears in Bloomborough.
I hope so. Oh, man, I hope so. That's going to be so fun. I am brewing up that mono green bear deck.
Yeah.
Just for fun. It's one of my fun greens. Sorry, I feel like we got off topic.
We got off topic here towards the end, but I think it's all good content.
Yeah, it's all fun. It's all very fun stuff.
But yeah.
Yeah. If you want to catch us... talk to us and say something about the show, you can catch us at everythingbagel@gmail.com.
Right.
The proper email will be in the description, so just look a little bit down, and it'll be there somewhere.
Yeah.
I promise you. It'll probably be the first thing.
Well, so it doesn't matter where you are, what time of day. Just remember, have a good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and don't forget, try everything.